Hello class, and welcome to our lesson on forms of energy. This is the first lesson in a series of energy lessons as we get into our energy unit of study. In this particular lesson, these are the 8 forms of energy that we're going to be highlighting and talking about in this particular lesson. Many of these you have heard of before and are familiar with, and some of them will be new forms of energy that you will be learning about. Let's talk about mechanical energy first. This is energy that is possessed by an object that is either moving or it's in position. For example, if I'm just holding this hammer above this nail, you could say that this object has mechanical energy that is in position or stored mechanical energy. But then as you start to hit and beat the nail, then that position or stored energy will change into what we would call mechanical energy of motion. So mechanical energy can be described as either kinetic, which is movement, or potential, which is stored or is just kind of waiting to be used for something. Chemical energy. We've talked about chemical reactions in class, and we've talked about chemical bonds. Well, chemical energy has a lot to do with both of these. This is energy that's stored in chemical bonds. When chemicals are broken apart and new chemicals are formed, which is what we would call a chemical reaction, then that chemical energy is released, and it's released into other forms, such as whenever we are eating foods, which are complex chemicals. There's complex chemicals in food that store chemical energy, and then during activity, that chemical energy will transform it into energy of motion. So a lot of times with chemical energy, it's going to change into other forms of energy, but it is a stored form of energy, so it's kind of waiting to be used. And then when it's used, it changes into other forms. You can see that here in this candle picture. You start out as chemical energy here with the wax, and then when it starts to burn, the wick inside is starting to burn, then you change that into light and heat energy. And then you have a picture of food, which is an example of chemical energy, as well as batteries have stored chemical energy as well. All right, electromagnetic energy. This is a form of energy that is reflected or emitted from objects in the form of electrical and magnetic waves that can travel through space. There are many different forms of electromagnetic energy, and you can see them all here on this little spectrum. And we're going to have a separate lesson a little bit later in the year where we're going to talk specifically about electromagnetic waves. So this will come up again. But all of these waves carry, or what we refer to as carrying, electromagnetic energy. Light energy, which is a specific one that we're going to talk about in this lesson, is an electromagnetic energy wave that we can see. Light energy can be absorbed, transmitted, or reflected. When light is absorbed by an object, the object can become warmer. So this is what we refer to as light energy, which is a type of electromagnetic energy as well. Okay, sound energy. Sound energy is often called the energy of vibrations because it's produced when a force causes an object or a substance to vibrate. The energy is transferred through the substance in a wave. As many of these forms of energy, they will travel through substances as waves. Okay. Thermal energy, which can also be known as heat energy, is energy possessed within an object or system due to the movement of particles within the object or system. Remember when we were studying states of matter, we talked about whenever you are adding heat to a specific state of matter, that the particles will start to move around more, and that is because they are possessing or they contain more thermal energy. The more thermal energy they possess in the object or in the system, the more those particles are going to move around. So as temperature of an object increases, the amount of thermal energy will also increase. Electrical energy, which is a form of energy that many of us probably could not do without. This is energy that is carried by an electrical current. An electric device uses electrical energy provided by the current that's flowing in the device. Typically, if you can see right here, you've got to have some kind of conductor for the electrical energy to flow through. That is how the electricity gets around, is through some type of conductor. Large electric power plants generate enormous amounts of electrical energy used each day. So most of the energy that we receive, the electrical energy that we received in our homes and buildings and businesses and schools does come from large electric power plants. Another way that you can produce electrical energy is through nuclear energy, which is a very difficult process because it requires accessing the energy that's stored in the nucleus of an atom. So it requires having to access that energy in the atom. Is a very difficult process. However, it can be used to produce electricity. Now, when energy changes from one form to another, that's what we call an energy transformation. Energy rarely stays in the same form all the time. Transformations are happening around us all the time, all day, every day. Energy transformation comes from the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change from one form to another form, which is what happens all the time with energy. Forms of energy is that they're constantly changing forms. Here are a few examples of some ways that energy can change from one form to another. This concludes our video lesson on forms of energy. Please make sure that you have recorded notes for all of the different forms of energy in this video, as well as energy transformation.